Welcome to the Darkstream. Voxday, voxday.blogspot.com. And I hasten to assure you that I have never served in the U.S. or any other military. Now, obviously, this is a fairly heated subject for a number of you. And so what I'm going to do is encourage you to hold on to your hats. Do not attempt to monopolize the chat. If you do so, I will ban you without any hesitation. I don't have a new mic, but I do finally have this little handy-dandy cloud lifter, which is a gain booster and is much needed when you are dealing with the Shure microphone that I have. And so, anyhow, this is an interesting subject. It is a for some people, it's a very important subject. And I think it's worth addressing, especially considering how a number of people have been quite heated about it. Yeah, you're right, Porcelain. It's the SM7, SM7B, I think it is. So anyhow, first let me give you a little background as to why I have some insight on this. Those of you who know who I am, there's obviously a number of folks here who don't know who I am, which is fine, which is cool. Welcome to the Bears. Welcome to the Owen haters. Welcome to all you folks. Anyhow, I didn't have time to scan this, but this is a picture of me with my namesake. Lieutenant Colonel Theodore Summers, USMC, buried at Arlington. The person in my family to who I was always closest to. He used to wake me in the morning when I was 8 years old, telling me, drop your cocks and pick up your socks. It's time for reveille. He's the guy that I always went to, and when I got in trouble, and he made it clear that he had spent a little bit of time in the brig himself. He fought on Guadalcanal. He fought on Tarawa. He fought on Saipan, and he fought in Korea. When he died, we needed to get his medal straight. And fortunately, my mother had a picture of him in his dress uniform with all the ribbons on. And a good friend of my wife, who happened to be Marine Force Recon and happened to have served under General Krulak, then the commandant, came over and helped us identify all the various medals and ribbons. And his first comment was, damn, this guy had a lot of fruit salad. To put it in perspective, I was one of two people who spoke at my grandfather's funeral, and the other one was the commandant of the Marine Corps, Commandant Krulak. He wasn't the only commandant who was there. I mean, he was the only active one. General Al Gray was there. Admiral Robert Wellender. These were friends of my grandfather that I knew personally. He had a lot of other high-ranking friends. And the commandant referred to my grandfather as the Marine's Marine. That's what they all called him. He was one of the few Mustangs up from the ranks. There's not a lot of them. Those who get promoted from the ranks into the officer corps tend to be very special. And so I'm telling you all this so that you can understand that I'm from a family with a military tradition. I have relatives in the Navy right now. I have other relatives who are beginning their service very soon. Pedro, you can go to hell. I don't want you around. You're sitting here, when are we going to get to the point? You know what? Just grow up. I'm not on your time frame. And I'm not going to start explaining my opinion to you when a bunch of you morons have no idea who I am or why my opinion is relevant. The point is that I know, I'm personally acquainted with, I'm very close to a lot of extremely highly decorated Marines, as well as some from the other services. I still have the Purple Heart that my uncle, the commandant, gave me when I was 10 years old as a present. All right? This is relevant. You guys claim to care about this stuff. It's relevant. So, it came to my attention last night, thanks to a bunch of people who were hurling all sorts of stuff in the chat, that someone by the name of Eric Nimmer, who I only know of because I understand that, you know, he opens for Owen Benjamin, and I've never met, I don't know, I don't care about. Apparently, he is claiming to have been in the Marines for, what, 4 tours? Which is kind of a strange way to put things. And apparently he claims to have killed people, presumably when he was on tour and that sort of thing. So Matthew North just says, stolen valor. Okay. I don't know how to explain this to you any more simply than I'm going to explain it to you now. Stolen valor is not about claiming to have been in the military. Stolen valor does not concern claiming that you've killed people. Stolen valor is a very specific crime. It is a specific federal crime. It was originally passed in 2005. It was considered too broad at the time and found unconstitutional. And then they passed another law in 2013 to make it more specific. And so you need to understand that there is something very, very different about falsely claiming to have served in the military, falsely claiming to have committed certain actions, and falsely claiming to have the specific list of medals that are prohibited on the list. The Stolen Valor Act of 2013 amends the Federal Criminal Code. Fraudulent claims about military service subject to a fine, imprisonment for not more than 1 year, or both, if for an individual who, with intent to obtain money, property, or other tangible benefit, fraudulently holds himself out to be a recipient of a Medal of Honor, a Distinguished Service Cross, a Navy Cross, an Air Force Cross, a Silver Star, a Purple Heart, a Combat Infantryman's Badge, a Combat Action Badge, a Combat Medical Badge, a Combat Action Ribbon, or a Combat Action Medal. Now, an implication is not enough. It is not enough to claim that you were in combat. That does not constitute a claim to have received a combat infantryman's ribbon or any of those medals. All right? So you need to understand that it is not stolen valor to falsely claim to be in the military or to have been in the military. This is a picture of stolen valor. Do you see all the medals on that guy's chest? He was later found to have only served in the British military for 14 months. He did not have the right to wear the vast majority of those medals. That is stolen valor. Now, some of you are saying, oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It does matter. I guarantee you it does matter. And no, JJPM, I am not defending Eric Nimmer. I am not defending him in any way, shape, or form. I am telling you morons that you are putting yourself at risk of a defamation suit, a successful defamation suit, which is incredibly stupid if you are dealing with someone who is a scam artist. You are setting yourself up. And I am in the middle of a defamation case, a very similar defamation case, where I and many other people were accused of a specific crime of money laundering. Okay? And we, so far, have filed 4 separate claims against Indiegogo, the company that did that. And they are on the hook for an awful lot of money, and they have already spent a lot of money defending themselves against this with pretty much no hope of successfully doing it. So what I am telling you first, well, Dark Bear says it isn't defamation if it's true. It isn't true, as far as I can tell. Nobody has answered. Porcelain, this isn't semantics. I'm not creating a semantic straw man. I'm telling you morons that you are creating a really, really dangerous legal situation for yourself, running around publicly accusing someone of committing a federal crime. All right? We're going to get to the other stuff. I am telling you, every single one of you who is using the term stolen valor is committing defamation if you do not have any evidence that Eric Nimmer has not made any claim of having been awarded any of those medals or ribbons. That's what it means. And I am telling you this as someone who knows a lot of people at very high levels in the military who really care a lot about this stuff. All right? So stop your posturing. Stop your histrionics. Stop trying to claim that, oh, this is just semantics. It's not semantics. I know it's not semantics. Jester says, maybe you shouldn't have warned them, let them fall. I don't think you understand. I am not on the side of anyone who falsely claims to be a Force Recon Marine. I know Force Recon Marines. I've had Force Recon Marines stay at my house. I have gone shooting with Force Recon Marines. So I don't take it lightly. But I'm also not interested in posturing. I'm also not interested in trying to, see, this is what's stupid. Doc Jabrani says, Nimmer has claimed he has medals. What medals specifically, Doc Jabrani? What medals has he claimed to have specifically? I have medals. I have lots of medals. I have a championship medal for the 100-meter dash in the Tri-Metro Conference. I have a medal for a third-place finish in the Region 5 for the 200-meter. You guys don't seem to understand that words matter. Here you're claiming that it matters so much. And people are saying, oh, why do you care? Why do I care? Because you morons have accused me of lying. I haven't lied about anything. I am not defending anyone or anything except myself. But there's some moron, it's on my blog, there's some moron named Mersh who's, I mean, look at this. This is ridiculous. Everyone retweet this tweet if your comments have been censored by Steven Crowder, Vox Day, or Owen Benjamin. Here's all the proof you need. They are all lying to you the way they claim their enemies do. No, we're not. I haven't lied about anything. Always the same game. I'm always only censoring these bots, libtard. Dismiss all the people telling the truth as gammas. It won't work, Vox. It won't work. They're onto you, Vox. Onto me for what? I haven't done anything. All right. Why was I deleting comments? Because it was off topic. We weren't talking about Eric Nimmer. We weren't talking about Nathan Phillips. And to the extent that you guys talked about it, you were committing defamation as far as I can tell, because people kept saying, stolen valor, stolen valor, stolen valor. I knew immediately that that was probably not an accurate claim, because I know that most of you don't even know what stolen valor is. Dark Bear, you're such a moron. This is why you guys get deleted. Vox, quit trying to scare people with passive-aggressive legal mumbo. It's not legal mumbo jumbo, you moron. Go talk to Indiegogo. Go talk to their lawyers if you think this stuff is mumbo jumbo. There are hundreds of thousands of dollars on this. He says, this isn't your fight. You morons made it my fight when you came at me. I don't know Eric Nimmer. I've never met Eric Nimmer. I don't care about Eric Nimmer, but you idiots came on to my chat and tried to hijack my microphone. And so I'm looking into it. I didn't have an opinion. I didn't know anything about it. Now I've looked into it. And as far as I can tell, it appears, it is not conclusive, it appears that Eric Nimmer may have lied about his military service. And now let me explain to you why you can't read too much into that Freedom of Information Act. The reason you can't is because, first of all, those Freedom of Information Acts are dependent upon a bureaucracy that is astonishingly careless. They're astonishingly careless. Secondly, if someone is actually in Marine Force Recon, then it is possible that their records do not reflect what they actually did. I know several people who were in the military and they were involved in combat situations that officially were not supposed to be combat situations. And so if I had to bet on it, I would bet that Nimmer never came any closer to combat than I have, or than any of you. But the evidence at this point in time, as far as I can tell, looks very suspicious. And certainly Eric Nimmer's response looks very suspicious. but it is not yet conclusive. And this is the other thing that is very suspicious about your actions. And in fact, Army Bear points out, there are many of us who served whose records are not entirely accurate or have areas that have been redacted. I am aware of that. And we're not talking about secret ops. We're not talking about anything, really crazy. We're talking about stuff that happened openly, but didn't necessarily happen quite as cleanly as it was reported to the media. So, for example, let's say that you read in the newspaper that there's a coup in some Central American country. And all that comes out in the media is that, the Marines went in and helped escort the president and vice president out of the country. Okay? Not a big deal. There were protests, and then the Marines went and escorted them out. Well, guess what? When that actually happens, it's not always that way. I'll give you another example. Do you remember those smart bombs from the 1991 Gulf War? They weren't that smart. I'm not going to say any more than that, but you can probably figure out how the targets were actually being selected. So there's a lot that goes on in every military, not just the US military. There's a lot that goes on in every military. In the IDF, think about the Israeli operatives that were caught coming out of Gaza. Okay, the only reason we found out about that was because a journalist broke the journalist's code that said that, you're not supposed to report on that stuff. We would never know about it. And if one of those IDF agents later said something about it, we would assume he was lying. But he wouldn't be, because he actually was involved in that situation. All right? And so, now again, I am not saying that Eric Nimmer's claims were true. I am simply saying that on the basis of the information that you have so far, you don't have conclusive evidence, and you also don't have, as far as I've seen, I have not seen any evidence whatsoever that Eric Nimmer, or for that matter, Nathan Phillips, are guilty of committing stolen valor. Words matter, especially when it comes to the law. And so, now let's talk about Owen. See, here's the thing that's a little bit suspicious, is why are you guys, Haven Wolf, he has claimed to get medals, right? That's not enough for the charge. I just told you, I have medals. There has to be a claim of a specific medal on a specific list. And so, all right, some of these guys have to go. Ridiculous. Now, the thing is, what does this have to do with Owen? Why are you guys claiming that Owen lied? What did Owen lie about? What is the claim there? I've seen numerous claims that Owen lied. How on earth? Let's see. Porcelain says, yeah, I get the distinction and it's not stolen valor, but it does nothing to let Eric off the hook. I agree. I don't think Eric is off the hook. I don't think that he should be permitted to avoid addressing this. But Owen doesn't know. Owen doesn't know anything more about Eric Nimmer's service than you or me. So why are you trying to get on his case? You know, if I would ban you too for asking about him. I mean, not tonight. That's the subject. But do you not know how obnoxious it is to try to quiz somebody about their friend when they don't have any way of knowing about it? Owen, despite being Eric Nimmer's friend, probably has less ability to find out what is true or not than I do. I've got a lot of contacts in the Marine Corps. You know, I'm not going to call any of them to find out about this stuff because I don't care. And it's not my business, and I don't know the guy. But trying to use this to attack Owen Benjamin is wrong. Trying to use this to attack Owen Benjamin is ridiculous. And in fact, some of you who are not in the military, who are doing this, I don't think you understand that actual military people are looking at you and wondering why you're posturing and posing like this. Because they know you don't actually care. You know, you're not up in arms about Nathan Phillips. You're not up in arms about the British guy with all the medals on his chest. So what is it really about? Are you really that offended that someone claimed to have served when they didn't? Or are you using this as an excuse to try to attack either Eric Nimmer or Owen Benjamin? If you're using it as an excuse to attack Eric Nimmer, okay, fair enough. You know, his behavior is very questionable. Why did he delete his social media accounts? Why hasn't he come out and addressed this? You know, when someone comes and says to me, I mean, look, I was accused of lying today, and here I am directly addressing the claim. And I am telling all of you, I did not lie about this. I did not do anything even remotely inappropriate. The people who were behaving inappropriately were people who were trying to hijack the mic and use yesterday's stream with Owen as a way to attack him. They came into my stream and tried to attack my guest. That is not acceptable, and that's not okay. Why are you making blanket assumptions that we don't care about stolen valor? Well, first of all, because this doesn't appear to have been a case of stolen valor as far as I can tell. And secondly, because you're coming onto my stream to try to talk about one specific case of it, and you don't seem to have any interest or concern about anything else, about another case of it. Like I said, we're talking about two cases of accused false claims of military service. Nathan Phillips claims to have been a Vietnam, time vet, with implications that he was served in Vietnam at a time when Vietnam was over. That doesn't bother you at all? Why are you continually asking about the same thing and continually asking about one guy and not about the other? But Porcelain, you said, I don't have much of a dog in that fight. But why do you have a dog in the Eric Nimmer fight? If that's what you're referring to. And so maybe you are, but you're certainly not showing it to me. Eddie Corsi says, Owen won't ever address this, so you have that. I don't have anything on him. It's not Owen's business. Why do you think it's Owen's business? Why are you talking to Owen instead of Eric Nimmer? Why are you harassing Owen? Why were you harassing me? I don't think you understand. I'm getting accused of lying on Twitter. Steven Crowder is getting accused of lying on Twitter. We have no idea who these people even are. The only reason I have some idea who Eric Nimmer is because on one or two videos I've seen of Owen, there was a black guy who introduced him. I didn't even know that was who Eric Nimmer was. And so, when this whole thing started up, I was like, who, what's going on? So I looked into it. That's why I know more about it now. But you need to keep in mind that people are not inclined to accept this sort of behavior. And frankly, I wouldn't necessarily assume that even if Eric Nimmer is guilty of having lied about his military service, I wouldn't fault Owen if Owen kept working with him. Because it's not Owen's job to enforce people telling the truth about their pasts. I mean, these guys are in the entertainment business. I don't know why you're expecting a lot of truth out of the entertainment business. It makes no sense to me at all. And so it's, why would Owen abandon his friend if his friend made a tremendous mistake? I can't speak for Owen. It's not my job to speak for Owen. But I can tell you that if I found out that my friend, who was, to the best of my, actually, this is a bad example because I actually know that my friend who was in Marine Force Recon was because my uncle knew him. He served under my uncle. But let's say, for example, I didn't know that. Let's say that all I knew is that this guy was supposed to have been a sniper in Marine Force Recon. Would I abandon him? Would I discount all of our friendship and everything just because he was foolish enough, insecure enough, fame hungry enough to lie about something like that? I don't think so. I would encourage him to come clean. And that's something else that you need to keep in mind. Why do you think that Owen isn't talking about it? The fact that he's not talking to you doesn't mean that he's not talking to Mr. Nimmer. Maybe he's encouraging him to come clean. Maybe he's encouraging him to do the right thing. Do you know what he's doing? I don't. I talked to Owen for an hour and 45 minutes yesterday, and I have no idea what sort of communications he's been having with Eric Nimmer. But if I was talking to Eric Nimmer, I would say, Eric, you need to come out and address this. And if you did exaggerate your service, if you did lie about your service, you need to come clean and apologize. And you need to take the heat. A lot of people are going to be upset. A lot of people are going to be angry. But you need to deal with it. You can't just hide from it. Foos57 says, if I found out my friend told such a huge lie consistently, he would be gone. If you keep a liar around your life, that speaks volumes of your character. I don't think so. Some people are more forgiving than you. Some people are more willing to try to help people. Jordan Peterson would tell you to abandon him. Jordan Peterson says you should abandon the wounded to die. But here's the thing. No, ERA 718 says maybe Owen should at least address somewhat instead of just shutting down anyone who asks him. Hell, even I'll update you guys once I have the full story. You don't seem to understand. We don't like being told what to do. I ban people who tell me what to do, not about stolen valor, not about comedians I don't even know. If you come into my stream and you tell me what to do, I'm going to ban you, most likely. Owen has made it very clear he's not going to address it. And he's not the right person to address it. So you should leave him alone. That's his choice. If he wanted to come out and virtue signal and talk about how terrible it was and shake his finger, that would be fine. That would be his choice. But he chose not to do that. He said, I don't want to address it. And you guys refused to accept that, some of you. And that's wrong because it's not your friend and it's not your choice. It's Owen's friend, it's Owen's choice, and you should respect his decision. Now, and if you're just trying to do this to try to somehow undermine Owen, that's not going to work. If you're trying to do this in order to, we're talking about the scheduled subject, Rich. Jeez. If you're trying to do this in order to create a wedge between Owen and me, it's not going to work. And so, how people handle these things is going to be different from person to person, and you have to allow for that. Let's hit some of the super chats here. Vox, have you read About Face by Colonel David Hackworth? No, I have not, but I did know David Hackworth. We were colleagues at WorldNet Daily. I admired him. We read each other's columns. We actually exchanged email on occasion. I loved his loathing of the perfume princes. Anyhow, the rest of it says, as a fan of military history, I think you'd enjoy it. I should check it out. He went against the grain in Vietnam and was an outstanding leader. Yeah, everyone that I knew that was on the Army, Marine side of things spoke well of him. And I really enjoyed his column, and I'm sorry that he died as soon as he did. And so, let's see here. Oh, I'm missing a few. Let me go over here to get them. This is kind of slow. There we go. Okay. Starting with the beginning, William says, your grandfather seemed like a great man. He was a great man. I've got really good stories to tell about him. I'll save them for some other time, but he must be proud of you. Please shout out for my dog Bandit who died this morning. Oh, I'm sorry for your loss. I am. There's he had a hard life, but was still a good boy. Nick Cole, the author Nick Cole, has a great saying. He says, every dog is a love story that ends in tragedy, but they're worth it. Frank Underwood said, it's weird to go around bragging about having killed people. It is indeed. I suspect most people who have served is repulsed by this kind of behavior. I don't think they're repulsed by it. I think they're usually suspicious of it. Well, here, I will tell a very short story about my grandfather. He never, ever talked about killing anybody, except once. It was when he was literally on his deathbed, and he was giving me what he wanted to be his final words that he wanted me to read at his funeral. And he said, I just want to say it's wonderful to die at home, surrounded by, your loved ones, rather than a bunch of screaming Japs. I mean, the guy is one of the few people I know who actually cracked up everybody at his own funeral. So anyhow, he says, brave people bled and died for the rest of us. Medals are tokens that represent these sacrifices. It matters. P.S. Please ban those libtard biznatches. Daniel Paul says, it's quite simple to prove service. We all have photos with our comrades on various courses, vacations, etc. Yeah, that's true. I mean, but again, I would be very, very suspicious of Mr. Nimmer's claims simply because he was going around talking about killing people. Like I said, actually, that's not quite true. My uncle used to amuse himself. I went and visited him when he was living in the Washington, D.C. area when he was the director of military affairs at the White House, or that's not the exact title, but he was basically, it was before he was in command at Quantico. And two of my friends and I went over to visit him just to say, hey, we'd been down at my grandparents' place in Alexandria. And we went over, we walk in, and I introduce him. And the first thing he says is, do you know the difference between me and you? And my friends are like, no. And he points to this hat, which was, in retrospect, a Chinese colonel's hat. He said, I killed the man who wore that hat. And he burst out laughing. And it was funny because it was his way of getting these college guys interested in the Marine Corps. So, but my uncle is an extremely charismatic, extremely unusual man. And so, but in general, if people are walking around talking about having all the people they've killed, they're usually totally making it up. CA Anonymous says, oh, you mean your stream about stolen valor? Well, yes, it's appropriate for us to talk about stolen valor tonight. It was not appropriate for us to talk about it when we were talking about Owen Benjamin and the art of banning. Two different things. Wicked S says, looks a lot like an outrage mob, but I think a lot becomes zealous and digging for truth. That's true. But when you're zealous for digging for truth, dig for truth. Don't waste your time pointing and shrieking at people. Guys, first, digging is the method, not the goal. Yes. Second, charity is the right mindset. Much love, Vox and Fam Bears. Thanks. I totally agree. Cave Bear Chris says, don't let these Benjamin Bannies hijack you in your stream. Well, to a certain extent, that's what we're talking about. So, they can't hijack it tonight. And if they do try to hijack in the future, they'll get banned from here too. I'm free to offend anyone, says a lot of people need to mind their own damn business. Couldn't agree more. C Speaks, we did that one about Colonel David Hackworth. Anaf Habib says, the whole objective of this farce, namely of these folks faking concern of stolen valor, is to get you into attacking Nimmer, ergo leading to antagonism, ultimately developing between you and Owen. That may be. I don't know. I'm not disavowing Eric Nimmer. I'm not disavowing Owen Benjamin. Like I said, if I were advising Mr. Nimmer, I would advise him to come clean. I would advise him to show his service records. But he's not asking me, and I don't know him. Brendan Harnett said, people are mostly using this to promote the new documentary by Porcelain about Owen. Vox, you are a voice of reason. So many gammas, so few voxes. Oh, well, actually, most people are reasonable. Even gammas can be reasonable. The problem is that people are, out of control. Cave Bear Chris adds, your comments about gammas last night is on vivid display tonight. Ha 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 ha. Well, it kind of is, but what do you do? So here's the thing. Oh, and by the way, somebody did point out this chair is my grandfather's chair. This is the chair that was in his office my entire life. And so I'm very pleased and privileged to have it. So Vox has a man crush on Owen. No, I don't. You need to understand not everybody thinks the way that you do. You know, people can have the ability to like and enjoy each other without, becoming obsessed with them. Little Red Commie Pope, I like the name, says, having a friend lie to you is very hurtful. It is. Seems people are less hurt and more interested in making the lie hurt more. Hope the truth comes out. I think that is the truth here. I think that is true. But, I think Porcelain needs to rethink. I haven't seen his documentary, but, if you're thinking that this is going to harm Owen in any way, you're wrong. Honestly, it's much more likely to harm you, especially if you are making false claims. If you're making false claims. I'm not saying you are. And again, I too am very dubious that, I don't know what Mr. Nimmer's claims are. Somebody said, I've only read what some other people have said about them. If those particular descriptions of his claims are true, I was immediately dubious of them. And so I don't have any problem with people saying, hey, what's the real story? But I do have a real problem with trying to pin this on Owen Benjamin. I do have a real problem with people trying to pin this on me. And I do have a real problem with people trying to pin this on Steven Crowder. None of us have anything to do with it. Not a thing. None of us lied. Nobody had any ability to know what Eric Nimmer's service was. Ganji Blob Flankus says, stand-up exaggerates, gets out of hand, the horror. Yeah, honestly, I think C Speaks wins the super chat of the night. I killed 400 people in the Gulf War, but first let's talk about Birch Gold. Ben Shapiro, also known as the littlest chicken hawk. Look, the thing is that I applaud your efforts to find out the truth. Going and getting the Freedom of Information Act was a good idea. But you also need to understand that that is not conclusive. And what I would encourage you to do is, if this is something that you truly care about, then continue it. Look into the others. Look into Nathan Phillips. JDP on stream.me says, I work with 2 retired Marines and stupidly made the mistake of asking about the people they killed. I didn't know their rule, but I do now. They don't like to talk about it. So I find it odd someone who is for real would brag about it. There are sociopaths. There are people who try to impress people about things. But yes, in general, people don't really like to talk about that stuff because it's awful. Even just, a street fight where nobody gets killed can be awful. And so, that's why most people don't like to talk about it much. I used to ask my grandfather about it when I was younger, and he made it very clear. I'd ask him, he had shrapnel scars on his leg, and I'd ask him about it, and he just refused to talk about it. Did Chris Kyle violate this rule? I heard he claimed he had more medals than his record shows. I don't know. Maybe he did. That's the thing, is that you don't always know. The record is not always precise, because there are sometimes things that people are not, encouraged to talk about. But there's a fair number of odd things about Chris Kyle, including his death, and so who knows. Donkey Show, you think Owen is the greatest thing in a good way? He's a LOL cow, that's it. His Christian apologetics. I don't think Owen is the greatest thing. I think he's a good guy. I think he's a truth seeker. And I admire his willingness to stand up for his beliefs. And I admire his refusal to sell his soul in search of fame and fortune. It's very unusual. I'm free to offend anyone asks, more than one Nimmer possible? Unlikely. It's possible, but unlikely. I mean, you can figure it out. You can probably figure out pretty easily how many Eric Nimmers of that age group are in the United States. Camouflage artist is afraid that Nathan Phillips will end up an American hero. I don't think so. I think that the aggressive way that the Covington kids and their families are refusing to accept the media narrative being established is probably going to expose whatever exaggerations Nathan Phillips may have implied. If you notice, he was pretty careful not to make direct claims of really much of anything, except for actually having been in the military. So the stolen valor charge, as far as I can tell, is even less accurate when directed at Nathan Phillips than directed at Eric Nimmer. And I have yet to see any evidence that either Phillips or Nimmer have actually made a claim of possessing any of those specific metals. Foos57 said he didn't just lie, he told multiple lies, and he is not the person he represents. Don't you get it? If you're talking about Eric Nimmer, fine. I don't care. I'm not the truth police. I don't run around worrying about potential lies having been told by people I don't know and have never met. Yeah. The Don, I think the Don is right. We won't remember any of this incident in 3 days. I tend to doubt it. I mean, this is not very significant. Let's see. See, it's pretty clear that some of these people are just angry with Owen somehow, because it says, let's see. Sure thing, Jester. Keep protecting your little cult leader. There is no cult. There's only one cult right now that's out there now, and that's the Jordan Peterson cult. Nobody considers Owen to be a cult leader. Not the Bears. Okay, this is a good question from Shakes M. Is stolen valor really limited to its legal definition? Hasn't it become common language? I don't think you understand how these things work. If you make a charge of something, a public charge of something, you don't get to determine exactly, well, what I really meant. Okay? That's why you need to be careful about what you say. You know, if you accuse somebody of committing a crime and you do so in the knowledge that they did not commit that crime, you have no actual reason to believe that they committed it, then that is defamation. Now, you know, the best defense would be that Eric Nimmer is a public figure to a certain extent. That might work. The other big defense is that you're in the media. That won't work. So in general, what you should always do is be careful about what you say and what you accuse people of. I mean, I have significant suspicions about Jordan Peterson that I have not and I will not voice, because I don't wish to defame the man. Unless I have very strong evidence, I am not going to say anything about it. Freddie C says, Vox Day, I know you're an Indian. Do you feel strong ties to tribes or any of the Indian nations? No, I wouldn't say that I feel strong ties to the tribes because I wasn't raised that way. But I do have, so I don't have like a strong emotional tie to it. But I do have I would say, an enhanced empathy for the Indian tribes, and I do think that that colors my perspective on nationalism. I mean, I understand how the adulteration of a nation happens to the extent that most of you would probably deny that I'm an Indian. And so I understand how in 50 to 60 years, some of your grandkids, great-grandkids, might be saying, but honestly, I am white. No, you're not. You don't look it. Box Cutter Bear says, there was a case of stolen valor where I live where a young man was claiming service and Purple Heart. Turned out it wasn't his Purple Heart. Well, yeah, I could do that. I've actually got 2 Purple Hearts in my possession. One is my grandfather's and one is my uncle's. It would be absurd for me to claim I have 2 Purple Hearts, but I could literally show them, But I've never served. I've never been in the military. Scalps, that's another matter. No, see, you're wrong, Crave 175. If you claim to have medals, qualification, schools, you don't stolen valor. No, it's only if you have specific medals. Claim to serve but did not, stolen valor. No, that's not stolen valor. Claim to be a war vet but we're in a safe rear position, a bitch ass that real soldiers think should shut the fuck up. Okay, that's true. Is it possible that a nation is created on an idea or a culture or something different than blood relations? No, it's right in the word. Nation, from birth. A nation is an extended family. I find it pretty coincidental that everyone is freaking out about Owen even after deplatforming him from everywhere. Well, I don't think that a lot of people are really freaking out that much. So I think that people are taking advantage of it to try to attack. That's my thought. Maybe it's not true. Voxday, do you feel a spiritual connection to Tonka Saw? No, I cannot honestly say that I do. Do you have alcohol issues due to native DNA, Vox? I don't, but my mother did warn me about that before I went off to college. The funny thing is that I thought she was referring to my alcoholic uncle on the other side of the family. but no, I've never had that issue, but I did have a girlfriend who was part American Indian who definitely had it. And it's not a pretty thing. I mean, just can't handle it. Let's see. People have word for said Vox Day and Owen need to disavow Nimmer, somehow expecting this demand not to trigger their anti-SJW instincts. Well, that's true. We just do not go along with people trying to tell us what to do. Jesse White says, the question is, does Joe Rogan have stolen height? Clearly, I mean, Joe Rogan is not 5'6". I mean, we all know he's like 5'2". Brandon says, the right is crumbling. Sad face. We look like the left right now. The right's not crumbling. Nothing's changed. Vox, when is your first 3-hour stream? Probably when I'm on with Owen. How about a children's book about false assumptions called The Crust is the Healthiest Part of the Bread? Yeah, my wife would enjoy that. Oh, I'm sorry. I stand corrected. Joe Rogan is actually 3'9" tall. Is this any worse than people that lie on their resume? I think so, because part of the reason that we value our soldiers and our warriors is because they're willing to take risks for the nation, for the tribe. When you're trying to pretend that, then you are trying to obtain something by fraud, and it's wrong. Let's see. Vox, what is a better way of describing Aristotelian aristocracy rhetorically, since aristocracy has taken on very different connotations over the many years since he used it? I have no idea. I'd have to think about that one. Ben Darling says, Vox, please promise to remain online for at least the next 30 years. You're irreplaceable, and it would be genuinely depressing if you went. Well, that's very kind, but I think that we're going to have an announcement in the near future that's going to make you extremely happy then. We're working on some stuff, and I think it's going to be a really good thing. And I think Sergeant Peterson put it best here. He said, I'm just disappointed with Nimmer. Again, I don't know the guy. I'm not disappointed with him because I don't know him. But I can understand that if you like the guy, that you're disappointed, because whether he lied or not, whether he exaggerated his service or not, he hasn't handled the situation well. He should come out and address the situation, and he should come out and come clean if there's anything to come clean about. So anyhow, that's my final thoughts on the subject. I should mention, we've got a bunch of audiobooks up now. My own The Last Witch King is now on audiobook. The Irrational Atheist, SJWs Always Lie, SJWs Always Double Down, Jordanetics. We've got like 14 or 15 audiobooks up there now. Archavencomics.com. Highly recommend that you check them out. And I appreciate you tuning in for the stream. I hope that this helps all of you at least put the situation into a better perspective. Have a good evening. We'll look forward to seeing you at the next Darkstream, and we'll see you the next time.